In today's video, we will cover Exile for the TurboGrafx-CD. This action RPG was published by Working Designs and released in 1992. Exile is a remake of the title XZR2, released for various computer systems like the MSX, PC-88, and 98. The story begins with a narrator describing the relationship between mankind and nature. Mankind used nature to sustain itself, but when nature showed its destructive tendencies, mankind cowered in fear and sought solace in the form of a higher being. This was the forefront to religion. As mankind grew in numbers and settled in different areas, they each developed their own system of beliefs. Many regions intertwined religion with politics and slaughtered those who were in defiance of their beliefs. Amongst these groups are the Crispin Crusaders. Hugues de Payne, an ally of the Crispins and leader of the Templar Knights, is disgusted with the endless slaughtering of innocents. Hugues dreams of a world where all of mankind live in harmony under the guidance of one God. Hugues sends a spy to summon Sadler, a Syrian assassin who has spearheaded rebellions against other large religious sects, to join him on a quest to activate the Holomax, a long-lost artifact that can restore peace to this world. Sadler is accompanied by Rumi, Kindi, and Fakil. Together they venture to Homa's shrine to meet with Hugues. Hugues explains what needs to be done, but Sadler expresses his doubt because of Hugues' alliance with the Crispins. Putting their differences aside, they set forth to find the whereabouts of the Holomax. Sadler and his allies venture across Europe and Asia to find the clues needed to restore the Holomax. Some destinations include Sri Lanka, where Sadler performs a ritual to resurrect the spirit of the deceased prophet Mani, and Japan, where he rescues the monk Ninkan, who knows the location of the mandalas needed to activate the Holomax. Some of the characters you interact with are based on actual historical figures, like Hugues de Payne, who is based on Hugh de Payne, a master of the Knights Templar during the 12th century, and Ninkan, who was a leader of a sex cult during the same period. Exile's gameplay is broken down into three modes: RPG, strategy, and action. The RPG mode takes place in overhead areas, mostly towns, where Sadler interacts with people to gather information, purchase potions and equipment, and enter buildings and other sites. This is also where you save your progress. The strategy mode is where you access the map to move to your next destination. The destination names on the map are similar to their real-life counterparts. For example, Grenoble is based on the French city of Grenoble. The action scenes are the side-scrolling areas where you fight enemies. You fight Crispin knights and archers in the town of Elim. Dragonflies and giant ants are found in the sand trap in the desert. In the forest, you will fight butterflies and caterpillars. There's a large maze-like cathedral where you fight an assortment of druids. There are many kinds of beasts and creatures found in temples. These locations have corridors where there are many doors to enter, which gets confusing at times. There's also lots of platform jumping, whether it be moving from left to right, vice versa, or upwards. Keep an eye out for enemies before jumping because you can get knocked off and descend to the bottom. Luckily, there are no traps or hazards, but you may have to traverse through an area again to get back on track. Here's a tip: enemies reappear after they're defeated. If you stand in certain spots, you can continuously attack reappearing enemies, which helps you raise levels quickly. In a video I did a couple of years ago, I mentioned a trick where you can strap a rubber band to the attack button with the turbo switch on and walk away while Sadler hacks away to max out on levels. To prepare yourself for battle, you need to stock up on equipment and potions. The strength of your weapons and armor are indicated by the AP and AC meters on screen. Potions restore your hit points, magic points, and provide a temporary boost to your attack power and armor class. You need to reference the manual or an online guide to know what each potion does. In my playing experience, I saved the potions for the final battle against Shimbatha.
Sadler, my friend, take this with you.
Sadler can use magic once Fakil gives him the magic stone of Kumari. There's fire, ice, and restoration spells. Fire Blast unleashes a wave of fire which sweeps across the screen, damaging all enemies in its path. This is useful for boss battles when close range combat can be dangerous. Ice Storm unleashes an ice bomb which moves slowly, damaging all enemies on screen upon explosion. The fire and ice spells are available in 3 levels, but the second and third levels are not accessible until Sadler reaches a high enough level. The fire and ice spells do not drain your magic points that much, so they are an asset in combat. Restoration magic recovers Sadler's hit points, but this drains his magic points quickly, so you're better off using a potion. Exile features some humorous interactions which will become a staple in Working Design's published games. The one that stands out is Sadler's reaction to a pile of dung. For many years I did not understand the meaning behind it, so I just accept that it's funny. They cleverly threw in an advertisement for Cosmic Fantasy, though I am not a fan of that game. I noticed in the town of Grenoble, you interact with a young shepherd named Andre. I wonder if this is a reference to Andre the Giant since he was billed as hailing from Grenoble in the French Alps, or is just a coincidence. On the flip side, Exile features content that is not suitable for people of all ages. The combat can be gory with lots of blood spewing from some enemies. There is one village where its residents are slaughtered and crucified while being burned alive by the Clispins, a group that was renamed from the Christians. In the computer versions of this game, the potions reference illicit drugs, though the names were censored for this version. I noticed a potion named Coca, possibly referencing cocaine. All visuals of Sadler show him with a cigarette in his mouth. There is one town that is celebrating a Greek festival where there are naked ladies scattered about. 1992 was a banner year for video games with controversial material like Mortal Kombat and Night Trap. Exile's content flew under the radar, probably because it was released for a non-mainstream console that didn't receive much attention by that point. Exile's plot is unusual. While you have common RPG tropes like rescuing people, the quest can be summed up in one sentence: a journey to save mankind from themselves. The dialogue in the ending sends a message to our society today. When I first played Exile in the early 90s, I was not aware of the historical references. I find it interesting that they combine these references into one quest. The graphics in both the RPG and action scenes are colorful and detailed. The character and enemy sprites are large and detailed as well. Exile moves at a fast pace in both the RPG and action scenes, so you never feel like the game drags. Exile features plenty of cinematics to better understand the story, along with quality voice acting. The narrator provides a grim take on the story. The soundtrack is excellent with catchy techno and house-style beats. I do listen to some of these tracks when I'm on the go. Exile is not a long game. It takes a few hours to complete. I learned that there were areas in the computer versions, including a rendition of present-day New York City, that were left out when it was ported to the TurboGrafx-CD. Knowing this, it would have been nice if these sections weren't removed. The quest is linear, and once you complete a section you can't backtrack, though there really is no need to. It's not a difficult game either. Most enemies inflict minimal damage to Sadler. The final battle against Shimbatha can be a challenge due to his high damage attacks. It took me a few tries to defeat him when I first played this, and I sometimes have trouble with him today. They could have made the game more challenging by adding traps and hazards in the action scenes. There are hit detection issues when it comes to fighting bosses. You must strike them in a particular spot to inflict damage. It's easier to use spells against them. Enemies often catch you by surprise when you enter a room. I find that annoying. Exile is a fine example of what to expect from RPGs published by Working Designs, and it made me a fan of that company. Part of why I enjoyed Exile was that it reminded me of Ys 3. I have completed this game many times and I have come to appreciate its theme. Exile was ported to the Sega Genesis, which featured more censorship than the TurboGrafx version. While I consider Exile to be a quality title for the TurboGrafx-CD, its current price point of high double figures might make it hard to be a must-buy, unless of course you're going for a complete set or as close to it as possible, but definitely play this on emulation. I hope you enjoyed this review, and as always, thanks for watching.